welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I thought I would talk about all of my favorite romance movies. And while I was doing the research slash getting just kind of like the quick synopsis of each of these, I did realize that all of these do portray heterosexual relationships. And I did not think about that beforehand. A lot of these are ones that I've watched a lot since I was a kid, and it's only as an adult that I have started to get more introduced into queer movies. So unfortunately, I don't have any movies on this list right now that involve queer couples, but hopefully in the future I will. I have been watching a couple shows recently and I'm really loving them, so hopefully I can make another video that is related that includes those, but for now I'm just gonna stick with what I have. And just to preface this, I watch an insane amount of romantic shows and movies, and I always have. It's one of my favorite genres. I don't care if they're bad or if they're good. I love romance movies so much, and especially rom-coms. That is like the first thing I will pick if anybody asks me to pick a movie to watch. So I'm really excited to just be able to share these with you. So the first movie I chose is The Prince and Me. It is from 2004 and it stars Julia Stiles and Luke Mabley. And Julia Stiles plays Paige Morgan and Luke plays Prince Eddie. And basically they just have this kind of whirlwind romance in the backdrop of an American college. And Paige wants to go to college to get a career in the sciences, and she's very dedicated, very passionate, works multiple jobs, all that kind of stuff. And Eddie decides to go to college because he saw an ad for a Girls Gone Wild college edition and just insisted that he go to American college. So not really a great start for his character, but I promise he does get better. And he ends up meeting Paige and realizes that he needs to kind of change his approach, especially to how he treats women and just the other people around him in general. And I really do like his character development. And I just love how Julia Stiles is always kind of just that stubborn female protagonist. And she definitely is in this one. And yeah, that's really it. So, you know, they end up falling in love, of course, but I do really like the character development they both have. And overall, I just think it's, you know, one of those cute, random royalty romance movies. So the next movie is Angus, Thongs, and Perfect Snogging from 2008. It is a teen rom-com starring Georgia Groom and Aaron Taylor Johnson. And Georgia plays Georgia, and Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Robbie. So Robbie just moved with his mom and his fraternal twin brother from London to the small seaside town that Georgia lives in, and they end up going to the same school. And a lot of the movie is Georgia and her friends learning how to basically approach relationships since they've never been in one themselves. And it's just really silly, and it's definitely another just coming of age movie, and I always love those because I feel as a teenager I, of course, you know, had a lot of the same insecurities as Georgia, and so that's probably like why I love this movie so much. It just also is really funny. But Georgia's friend ends up actually dating Robbie's brother, so Georgia, you know, finds ways to try and see if her friend can, you know, kind of set her up with Robbie. And all of her scheming really doesn't work, and it just totally backfires on her. And I feel like this movie is just a really good one to watch if you like seeing first love tropes. I think it's really good and interesting. And although it does, you know, get sad at times, I think it is just overall a really fun movie. So the third movie I chose is Sleepless in Seattle from 1993, starring Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. Meg Ryan plays Annie and Tom Hanks plays Sam, and then Tom Hanks' character also has a son played by Ross Malinger named Jonah. And one night Jonah decides to call into a local nighttime radio station and is discussing with a therapist the death of his mother and the fact that he thinks his dad needs a new wife. And of course, Sam overhears the phone call, begrudgingly takes the phone with the therapist, and that night he decides to kind of divulge his, you know, feelings, thoughts towards the death of his wife, and it ends up creating this, you know, kind of nationwide craze among all these women who start sending him letters that are basically applying to be his new wife. And honestly, it's very unrealistic and creepy, that aspect. But Annie happened to listen to the original call that night and just cannot stop thinking about Sam, so she decides to write a letter herself, but she gets too embarrassed and she doesn't, want to send it, but her friend ends up sending it, and, it just kind of goes from there. And as unrealistic as this movie is, I do think it's really sweet, and I understand why it's, one of those classic rom-coms. And also, just in general, I love Tom Hanks. So this is one of my definite, just favorite comfort rom-coms. The fourth movie I chose is Love Actually from 2003, and it has 9 separate intertwined stories, and they all have the same connection, which is love. And it's very complicated and dramatic and powerful and uplifting and beautiful, and it's so freaking funny. And also, it just has this star-studded British cast, which is so cool because my mom definitely tends to watch a lot more British things than I do, and so I just love seeing all of these people in it. I mean, Rick from The Walking Dead's in it, Keira Knightley, it's just so cool. Alan Rickman, love Alan Rickman, oh my gosh. So if you haven't seen it, I think it is one that, even if you don't like romantic movies or rom-coms or whatever, I think it's one you should still watch and at least try it. But anyways, the fifth movie I chose is 50 First Dates from 2004, starring Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And Adam Sandler plays Henry, who is a playboy, and he is a vet that works in Hawaii, and he typically dates tourists. He doesn't like anything serious, but one day he meets Lucy, which is Drew Barrymore's character, and he just cannot stop thinking about her. But unfortunately, she did suffer a head injury that caused her to have short-term memory loss. So every day she just completely forgets who he is. And with the support and persistence of Henry and their family and friends, they do end up creating a relationship that works. But I will say it is, really sad, and it does get pretty hard to watch. But overall, I think it is just an amazing film and definitely a must-watch. The sixth movie is A Cinderella Story from 2004, starring Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray. Now, as I mentioned before, a lot of these I did watch as a kid, and this is definitely one of my tried and true comfort romance movies. And if you haven't seen it, Hilary Duff plays a character named Sam, and she's a teenager living with her awful stepmother and 2 stepsisters. And of course, in the classic Cinderella fashion, she does wait hand on foot for them, and she also works at her dad's old diner, which is now Fiona's, who is her stepmom. And her dream is to graduate a year early from high school and go to Princeton, which is thousands of miles away from where she currently lives. And she ends up meeting a fellow aspiring Princeton student on a chat board. However, he does turn out to be the star quarterback, so that, of course, has its own trope and complications. And he himself is also struggling to get away from his role in life, as she is. And they just end up finding solace in each other, even though it's kind of humiliating and there's a lot going on. So, full of all the classic tropes. Love it. Love Hilary Duff. So definitely a good one. And then the seventh movie I chose was another Cinderella Story from 2008, starring Selena Gomez and Drew Seeley. Selena Gomez plays Mary, who was adopted by a washed-up pop star because her mother was one of her dancers. And of course, she also has 2, jerky stepsisters. And then Drew Seeley plays Joey, who is a pop star, and he is holding a contest for a dancer to be a partner in his next music video. And although Mary is made to do all the chores and everything, she too shares her mother's gift of dancing and secretly enters the contest. And it's super musical and really fun. And it's just another good tropey Disney film. The eighth film I chose is The Wedding Singer from 1998, starring Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. And Adam Sandler plays the character Robbie, who is a wedding singer, and Julia is a waitress at these events. They first become friends since they're both working these, and they're also engaged. However, Robbie gets left at the altar, has a job crisis, has a life crisis, And luckily, Julia's there to cheer him up and be his friend. And something that helps him kind of get out of his funk is helping Julia plan her wedding, since her fiance is a jerk and doesn't want to help at all and actually sucks. Thankfully, they both realize that the person that they were with was the wrong person, and they get together, and it's adorable, and it's 80s themed and hilarious, and they have all the outfits and everything, and I love the songs, and Adam Sandler sings in it, and it's just perfect. So number 9, we do have Twilight from 2008, starring Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson. Now, if you've not seen Twilight, I will say that I am disappointed, but I understand. So again, this is one of my comfort movies. So Bella moves to Forks, Washington from Arizona. Her mom is traveling with her boyfriend, who is a minor league baseball player. So Bella is going to go live with her dad, whom she used to spend summers with. And of course, she hates Forks. It's nothing like Arizona. But she does meet a very intriguing and mysterious boy, and he is a vampire named Edward, and the rest is history. So I love the drama, and the soundtrack is so freaking good. Oh my gosh, I love the soundtrack in the Twilight films, and this one is definitely like one of the best ones. So at number 10, we have music and lyrics from 2007, starring Drew Barrymore and Hugh Grant. Now, Hugh Grant plays the character Alex, who used to be a part of a big 80s pop group, but now is mostly washed up. So when an offer for a collab with a rising pop star occurs, he takes it as his only chance to keep his fame. However, he's lost the touch for songwriting. I don't think he was ever really that good at it, but he definitely is not that good now. And in an unlikely situation, Sophie, Drew Barrymore's character, ends up filling in for her friend as Alex's plant lady. And while he's attempting to write the song, she, sings out a few lyrics, and they realize, like, oh, she has a knack for songwriting, and they end up writing the song together, and they fall in love. And this is one of those ones that is like more of an age gap relationship, and honestly, it just makes it funnier. But I love Drew Barrymore, as you can very well tell. So this is just a fun one. It has a lot of like silly 80s music. It's great. And on to number 11, I have 13 Going on 30, starring Jennifer Garner. It is from 2004, and she plays a 13-year-old girl just wanting to be popular and grown up. Well, she plays a 30-year-old version, but basically she wishes to be 30, flirty, and thriving. And the magic dust that her best friend Matt put on top of the dream house he built for her birthday ends up actually being magic. So when she makes that wish, she does turn into a 30-year-old, but it doesn't end up being as great as she thought it would, and she doesn't end up being the person that she thought she would be. She's actually not very nice and kind of a jerk, and she just wants to go back in time and change all of it. So she ends up, going through this crisis, basically. So this is definitely, a fantasy-based romance, but I love it so much, and I think it is just adorable. And also, I just love the character development that she has, and it's really true. Like, you can imagine what you think you want, and then if you end up getting it, it probably isn't going to be what you thought it would be, and it might change you for the worse. All right, so for number 12, I chose To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is from 2018, starring Lena Condor and Noah Centineo. So I held off on watching this for a really long time because I tend to ignore the hype of new shows and movies. But I ended up watching this a couple months ago, and I just cannot get enough of the series. So basically, Lena plays Lara Jean, who has written 5 letters in her lifetime for the 5 boys she's ever loved, which is just having, super, crazy secret crushes on them. And she's actually super shy and not very popular, so when her sister ends up sending out the letters without her permission, the sudden attention is very overwhelming. However, when Peter, Noah Centineo's character, approaches her in order to clarify the letter, she kisses him. Now, this is to dissuade her other, letter receiver, Josh, who is her older sister's ex. And then Peter proposes that they just fake date so his on-again, off-again girlfriend will get jealous. But of course, they end up actually falling in love and really liking each other. And it's, a 3-movie series. It's adorable, but the first one, definitely super cute. Alright, so at number 13, we have 10 Things I Hate About You from 1999, starring Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. Julia Stiles plays Kat, and this is, you know, supposed to be a modernization of the Taming of the Shrew from Shakespeare. So in the movie, they actually refer to her as the Shrew. And the premise is, in order for her younger sister to date, Kat has to date, so her sister and her boyfriend end up, you know, going behind her back, paying Heath Ledger's character Patrick to go on dates with her. However, they end up actually developing feelings for each other. And yes, they do hit quite a rough patch when she finds out about the whole payment thing. But I definitely think this is one of those classic rom-coms that everyone should see. And it's just really cute, and I love Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. Now, at number 14, we have Penelope from 2006, starring Christina Ricci and James McAvoy. I love both of these actors so much, and it's another fantasy romance, so of course I love it even more. But basically, the premise is there's a curse put on this socialite family because one of the men ended up having an affair with a servant woman, and the servant woman did not make it through pregnancy. So as a curse, her mom decided that the first girl to be born in that family will be born with the snout of a pig, and the only way to get rid of the curse is if one of her own kind learns to love her. So she spends years being set up with all these different bachelors signing NDAs by her family to try and find someone who will love her, but of course they get freaked out about the whole, you know, snout thing. However, James McAvoy's character comes along and he ends up not being scared, and it's really cute. Even though she is an adult at this age, I feel like it's still kind of a coming of age story, and they actually end up not seeing each other for a couple years between everything that happens. And I just really love them reuniting at the end. Like, it is just such a cool movie. Now, at number 15, we have Whisper of the Heart, 1995, starring Yoko Hana as Shizuku and Issei Takahashi as Seiji. And 14-year-old Shizuku is obsessed with books. And one day she sees that there's another person who has been signing out all the same books she has under the name Seiji. And one day she happens to be on the train and follows a cat sitting on the train to an antique shop. The shop owner happens to be Seiji's grandfather, and even though Seiji is kind of rude to her in real life, they do end up becoming friends. And it is just such a cute movie because I don't think it's only a romance, it is coming of age. And it's just so much more than, you know, your typical teen romance, and I just really love it, and I love the message in it, and it's super cute and fantastical. And of course, it's another, you know, Ghibli film. And the final movie I have for you is Juno from 2007, starring Elliot Page and Michael Cera. Elliot Page plays Juno and Michael Cera plays Polly. So Juno is your average spunky teenager who listens to cool music and has a very iconic hamburger phone. And she also has a major crush on her best guy friend, Polly Bleecker. They end up making their relationship physical, and Juno becomes pregnant. She then decides she cannot go through with abortion and instead chooses adoption. But of course, even that becomes complicated. Through all this, Juno and Polly find their way back to each other. And it's another coming of age, very emotional. Like, I cry at it, my mom cries at it, my boyfriend cried at it. And the soundtrack also is amazing. And it is just such a good movie and genuinely one of the best films I think ever. If you don't care about romance, a large portion of this movie does not focus on the romance between Juno and Polly. It focuses on Juno's relationship with herself and the adoptees, and I think it's just a really cool insight to something like that. Alright, so that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you've seen any of these films, please let me know down below what your thoughts were on them and which films that you're interested in seeing. And if you want to see any more videos from me, make sure to follow my social medias linked down below. I also have an Etsy shop where I sell earrings linked down below as well. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye!